Welcome, everybody, to Sports History Now, where we relive and preserve some of Kentucky's greatest sports stories. I'm joined today for part 2 of the Doug Flynn story, and I'm your host, Randy Mills. Doug, as I recall, during our last conversation, first let me say how good it is to see you and be with you again.
You too, Randy. I know
Yes, sir.
you're doing a little traveling right now, and
Yes,
I've
sir.
been doing a little
That's right.
traveling, so it's been a while, but it's good to hook back up again.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we went through about, as I recall, 2 pages of accolades and honors in that part 1, and I don't think we'll recount that, but it's so good to have it out there, and anyone who wants to reflect back and check out all those stories from part 1, that's great. But I do believe that we were right about up to the part where you were in the Cincinnati Reds spring training camp, 1975, and came through camp, had a super good camp, and actually got the word that you were going to be a major leaguer. You'd made the cut, and you were going to be a Cincinnati Red right up the road from your hometown of Lexington, Kentucky. Let's just begin there, Doug, and talk about that feeling of knowing you were going to be a Major League Baseball player. Describe that. You had a trip, I guess, from Florida up to Cincinnati at that point in time to prepare for the big show and the season opener. So here you are, man. You've made it to the National League Cincinnati Reds. Only 3 years as a minor leaguer. Let's go.
Well, I tell you what's kind of amazing. I only had 2 good springs in my whole 14-year career. The first one was that one in 1975 when I went to spring training with really not an opportunity to make the team, I didn't think. But I had such a good spring, they had to keep me. And I think what they did is I got off to a really good start, and so they just kept playing me in hopes that I'd either play myself out of it or, as it turned out, ended up playing pretty good for the whole spring, so that's when I made the club. And you know what's really weird, Randy? Sparky never came to me and told me that I made the ball club. We'd gone into Detroit, and we played the Tigers, and Steve Hamilton was coaching there. Steve was a longtime family friend, of course, had played a lot of pro baseball and basketball, and then was athletic director over at Morehead State. And he walked up to him and he said, "Way to go, kid, you made the club." And I said, "How do you know?" I said, "Sparky didn't tell me." He said, "No, but he told us today when we met him earlier." Because I asked him, I said, "How's the kid from Kentucky doing?" And he said, "He's going to make our ball club."
Wow.
And so Sparky really never said a word to me, and they didn't tell me to go home, so I just followed them on to Cincinnati.
What do you do then? Do you get on the airplane and make the trip on into Cincy?
Yeah, sit down with I was on the way back to sit in the back because I figured that's what rookies did, and Pete Rose grabbed a hold of me and he said, "Here, sit down beside me." So I sat down with him. We started playing some cards on the trip back up to Cincinnati, and it really never was any talk about, hey, way to go, congratulations. It was just, I've been with you all spring. It looks like you're going to be with us all summer. So
There you go.
headed up to Cincinnati and had a day off the next day. Came home, visited mom and dad, and just they were all pumped up about it. And then next thing you know, we're going up there and getting ready for opening day, and there's nothing like it. I got a picture of me and Pete kind of leaning over the fence in the dugout, looking out across the field, and it was pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Well, going into that locker room then, Doug, tell me a little bit about the team dynamics. Did you sense a real serious drive to succeed? I guess every major league team wants to succeed,
Yeah.
but maybe with the veterans and the leadership of that team, the dynamics, how was that fit, some of the leaders and that kind of thing?
Well, this was a team that had a lot of pressure on them because in 1970, they got beat in the World Series by Baltimore. In 72, they got beat by Oakland. 73, the Mets beat them in the division playoffs. So 74, they didn't have a really good year. And then, 75, you're going, and all of a sudden you're starting to be labeled as the best team to never win it all. Sort of like Phil Mickelson was before he won the Masters, I guess.
Right.
And so there was a lot of pressure on those guys, and we started off really slow. The leadership was obvious with Pete and Johnny, Joe Morgan, and Tony Perez. There were a lot of really good bit players, the rest of us, but those guys were solid leaders, and you could tell it was their locker room and their clubhouse. And what I found out later, they literally chose who they wanted to be their backup players. So we get off to a rough start. We're in Montreal. We go, I think our record was 19 wins and 20 losses. and Sparky calls a team meeting, and he basically called out all of us young kids, said, we thought we were in Hollywood, we're hanging out with the big stars, and we needed to get our act together, and we're all looking like,
Mhm.
"Oh, what have we done?" And about that time, Johnny stands up and says, "Sparky, the kids are doing a good job, leave them alone. If we're gonna win, we gotta do better." Then Joe stood up and said something, then Pete stood up and said something, and basically, they came to the aid of us, saying, "Hey,
Wow.
we're the ones not getting it done right now. The kids are fine." And then Tony Perez got up, he told Sparky, "Get out of the way. If he got out of the way, we'd win it." In a little different language.
Yes.
And so we leave Montreal, come back to Cincinnati, and win 41 out of the next 50.
Good
And that
grief.
kinda put us in a position where we went ahead and, won the league pretty easily.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, moving on through that, and really, you played a ton for that team.
Mhm.
Had some real opportunities, and I think maybe even some at third base that year. Would that be
Yeah,
right?
they said they really were looking before Pete came into the picture, they said they were looking for a third baseman, and they gave Doug Flynn and Danny Dreesen and John Vukovich and all us guys are really an opportunity. We didn't really have an opportunity. We were just kinda filling in till they figured out what they wanted to do. Vukovich, they had gotten a trade, and he was supposed to be the starting third baseman. John was a really good defensive third baseman, but none of us were gonna hit like a Mike Schmidt, or we weren't gonna be a Brooks Robinson, so we just sort of filled in until one day Pete was taking some ground balls in the infield, and Sparky went over to him and said, "Hey, you ever thought about moving in?" Well, Pete had played second base, so, he
Hmm.
had some infield skills. I think he'd made the All-Star team at 4 different positions.
Wow.
So he ends up coming in, and of course, when he came into third base, that's when they moved George Foster into left field, and we really took off after that. That was the key to really turning around what was a good team into a really good team.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, coming through that season and, as you say, winning the division by tons of games. I don't know, 15, 20 game
I
lead,
think
I
we won
think,
by
by the
20 that year.
20 here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so walk me through then a little bit of the postseason, if you will, postseason and making your way into the World Series as a rookie.
Well, uh, obviously the whole year, everybody said, "What was the best part about the year?" Everything, because it was all a first. Your first hit, your first game you start, uh, playing in the playoffs, and there were some teams. The Phillies were good, the Pirates were really good. So when we went to the playoffs, we kind of felt like that was going to be the tougher beating those two to get to the World Series. And in the old days, you had the
Hmm.
winner of the East played the winner of the West in the American and National League. Shoot, now you got 10 or 12 teams that go to the playoffs. We
Right.
only got 4. So you knew you had to beat whoever that was, and so, both times they had really good series with the Pirates, and then in '76, we rolled. '76, all the pressure was off of the team, because when we won in '75, now on top of all those individual accolades that these guys had, they could add to it a World Series title.
Hmm.
And so 1976, man, it felt real easy after
Hmm.
going through
Hmm.
75. I mean, we only won
Hmm.
by 12 games, I think, in '76, but we just never felt like we were in trouble. You started off playing, you knew you knew guys were gonna play up to their standards.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
Pete was gonna score 100 runs and hit close to
Right.
300 and get 200 hits. Tony was gonna knock in
Yeah.
90. Morgan was gonna steal 50 bases and I mean, it was all you could just write it down pretty much.
Right.
And, they were so good, and then the rest of us just when we got to fill in, you just felt like it upped your game a little bit because
Right.
you're playing in that lineup. There was a responsibility to be ready to go into play, but also you knew you had to play to a higher standard.
Hmm.
I think, you don't hear a lot about us other than the grade 8, but
Right.
we had a lot of guys that really did a lot of really good things for that ball
For
club.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, the 76 season, it was just, it was epic. But to use that word epic, I think the 75 World Series would be referred to as epic. So
Yeah.
you've indicated 76, the confidence coming now, the pressure being off. But that 1975 deal to get the world title, how about that series?
Yeah, that was,
Huh.
there was a lot of things that went on about that series in '75 that were really kind of funny, but different because we started off in Cincinnati and then we end up going to Boston. Then the last when we when we get to Boston, uh, we got rain, right? So, no, I guess it would start off in Boston, then we came Cincinnati, then we had to go back to Boston. So the last time going in there, it started raining, and I've got enough clothes for 2 days. We ended up staying 5, I think. So my roommate was Pat Darcy. We were taking our clothes and washing them in the shower and then hanging them up and turning the shower on to get them hot and try to get the wrinkles and stuff out of them. And, you're making $16,000 a year. You don't have enough money to really go out and buy new shirts, especially in
No.
Boston. And, then we had to work out at a gymnasium on a college campus, and we went over there, and all the students were screaming stuff at us, We get lost one day going to work out, and Sparky jumps off the bus and goes into some gas station in his uniform. And it's just, a lot of weird stuff that happened.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget once we got to the 7th game, after the 6th game, and a writer came in and said, "Pete, you gotta be devastated. Man, you guys had it. You were up 6-3, then Carbo hits a home run to tie it, then Fisk hits a home run to win it," and said, "You gotta be devastated." And Pete says, "Devastated?" He said, "What are you talking about? Tomorrow night's the 7th game of the World Series. We got our best pitcher going. Everybody in America is gonna be watching it." He said, "I can't wait." And I went,
Wow.
and I'm sitting there. That was not my attitude.
Uh-huh.
It was if we
Yeah.
w see, I'm making 16,000. If we win, I get a ring and I get another $14,000. That'd be more money my dad's making. So
Right.
there was a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah,
And
I
but
thought you'd just let it slip away.
yeah,
Yeah.
Carbo, he was a former Red, Rookie of the Year with
Yeah.
Cincinnati. Raleigh Eastwood looked like had him struck out on the pitch before,
Mm.
and he came back with it, and then he hits the home run to center. And when they asked Bernie afterwards, Bernie was going through some stuff. He's a pastor now, but he was going through some issues. He said he really doesn't remember a whole lot about it, but now he's changed and he's out preaching and talking to people. But man, it was very memorable. And then, of course,
Yeah.
at Boston, when you play in Boston, you learn a lot of new words. But it was pretty cool, and I
Yeah.
still watch the video with us going out, McEnany getting the final out off with Yastrzemski making the
Yeah.
out, and considered one of the best World Series of all time, and I think one of the reasons because the quality of baseball was really good.
Right.
You didn't have a lot of mistakes, you just had 2 teams playing really good baseball.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's awfully sweet to win in front of your home fans, but I gotta think Fenway Park, such an historic ballpark. Wow.
Then the
To
next year, we win at Yankee Stadium.
wow,
So
wow.
both World Series, we were on the road, and when we came back to Cincinnati, both years, it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was 30 to 40,000 people at time down there
Wow.
waiting for us. It was
Wow.
really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Well, before I move into 1977, a big year in your life too, can you say just a little something about another Kentuckian for us, Don Gullett,
Mm.
left-handed whiz kid, pitcher, great high school athlete at McHale High School in Greenup County. Just a little something about Don Gullett for us.
One of the best athletes I've ever seen. I mean, here's a guy that
Uh-huh.
averaged 26 a game in basketball,
Jeez.
scored 72 points in a football game, could gone to, I think, Ohio State or Alabama to play football, could throw a fastball 95 plus, just a really good athlete. When he was pitching, he was also a threat at the plate. He could
Uh-huh.
run, obviously, he could run the bases really well. So, just a tremendous athlete, lost him way too soon. When we had our
Yes, indeed.
50-year reunion this year, there were 25 of us available,
Uh-huh.
23 showed up,
Wow.
and
That's
since then,
awesome.
1 has passed away, so there's
Oh my.
24 of us left, and
Yeah.
yeah, Don's wife was there and his son,
Wow.
you think about that, it brings back some awfully good memories. It's hard to believe it's
Mhm.
been 50 years since, it happened,
Yeah.
but, uh
Well, I definitely wanted to give Don a shout out from your perspective. And again, to think about the Cincinnati Reds, Big Red Machine being one of the greatest all time baseball teams ever. And
yeah.
hey, we're mighty proud to say we had 2 Kentuckians on that baseball. That's good
I'll
stuff.
tell you a funny story. We went into Chicago to play after we won in '75, and that was Indiana had a pretty good year with Bobby Knight,
Oh, yeah.
right, in '75. So, we go in, Bobby Knight's in our locker room, and he was a big Reds fan, and he went by and he said hello to everybody. My locker is right next to Gullett, and he just walked right on by us. And then he stopped, and he turned around, and he looked at us, and he went, I know where you boys are from. So I thought that was
Thank
pretty funny. So, but he loved the Reds, and
That's great.
all the guys knew him. So yeah, Don was just one of the not only a soft spoken, tremendous athlete, just really a good person.
That's
Yeah.
super. Well, 2 great years, phenomenal. 1977 rolls around, and tell us a little bit about the trade. You're going to find yourself on a new ball club. How'd that play out?
Well, before we even got to spring training, you all know this. A lot of people don't. But my sister was disappeared in January. So now I'm getting ready to go to spring training. So I called the Reds and I said, Dick Wagner's who I was talking to. I said, I want to stay outside of the hotel because we're getting phone calls every day. This is an open investigation. I don't want to be around all the media and all the attention. So I'd like to live. My parents want to come down to spring training, and we're going to have the phone handy pretty because you didn't have cell phones back then.
Right.
So we're going to have somebody near a phone all the time, and I want to be there with my parents. And Dick Wagner said, "Well, you can't stay outside of the hotel because you have to have 3 years in the big leagues." And
Hmm.
I said, "Well, can't you make an exception?" He said, "If I make an exception for you, I'll have to make it for everybody." So I said, "Okay, Mr. Wagner, I'll help you out." I quit, and I hung up.
Wow.
So about an hour goes by, and the phone rings, and it's Pete. And
Wow.
I was at my parents' house, and Pete says, "Did you quit?" I went, "Yeah." I said, "I got 2 years in the big leagues. We got 2 World Series. So the only place I can go from here is down." And he started laughing. He said, "I got you a place where I'm staying, a place for you, a place for your parents,
Wow.
and, you all can stay down there." And Pete and his wife, Carolyn, at the time, and Carolyn's family fixed us dinners every night. They
My
couldn't
goodness.
be nicer and better to us, shielded us from a lot of stuff. They were
Yes, indeed.
outstanding. Well, as it turned out, I ended up, bucking the system a little bit, so I ended up getting traded, uh,
Uh-huh.
in June 15th of that year, and, wasn't really expecting it because they had in the newspaper the day before all the guys who were untouchable, and I was one of those guys, and Johnny Bench says later that they had the deal almost worked out and they needed to add something else, and he looked up and he told Sparky, he said, "Put Doug in there." He said, "What do I wanna let him go for?" He said, "Well, he's not gonna play here. He deserves a chance to play every day."
What about that?
Oh, I ended up being put in the trade, and then, for Tom Seaver, the franchise, one of the greatest
Whoa.
players, the
Hall of
history, not
Famer.
only of the Mets, but a history of
Woo.
MLB, and, I got his picture on my wall in here somewhere. But we actually there was 4 of us in the trade, and all 5 of us, including Tom, have only been together one time.
Hmm.
We went on the 25-year anniversary of the trade. We all went up to New York, and it was wonderful. Tom was gracious, and we were thankful. We told him, "Hey, some of us, like Steve Henderson and myself, we weren't going to get a chance to play in the Reds organization. There was nowhere to go. So getting to go to New York, we got an opportunity to play every day, and that's what you want. If you're a player,
For
you
sure.
you like being around championships, but at some point in time, you say, I really wish I could play every day." And getting to New York gave me that opportunity. It was rough playing in New York because, it's a tough place to play. A lot of people can't handle it.
Mhm. Mhm.
What you have to learn real quick, though, is keep your mouth shut and don't make excuses. If you make a mistake, own up to it. And the
There you go.
fans, they'll be hard on you, but they'll be
Uh-huh.
fair with you.
Yeah.
So, and the writers are different. They
Uh-huh.
won't. The fans were.
Yeah.
Say I tell people the difference is I'm a Christian, so I said, the good thing about God is he doesn't define us by the worst of our mistakes. Like fans will do that,
Mhm.
writers will do that. They'll take the worst that you are, and that's who you are. So, like poor Bill Buckner. Bill Buckner,
Uh-huh.
great ball player, makes
Absolutely.
one mistake at the time, and now that's all people remember him by. So,
Right.
I'm, but most of the fans, now that I do the Mets fantasy baseball camps, I got the chance to meet a lot of the fans. Once they get to know you, they
Uh-huh.
it's a lot better. But boy, when they only know you by what they read about you, that makes it tough, especially
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah, especially when you have a tough media, no
Yeah.
doubt. So getting to be plugged in. Tell us a little bit about finding your way on the New York Mets, and you had some just absolutely phenomenal seasons. And we know that in 1980, here you are. You're the Gold Glove second baseman of the National League. I
Yeah.
mean, Doug, they can't take it away from you now, big guy.
Well,
Congratulations on that.
77 was just a rough year altogether because all that was going on with my sister, and then I never
Absolutely.
I never told people what was going on. I figured I gotta be a professional, you gotta handle, and then I didn't handle it as well as I
Should I
should
mention just one thing, Doug? If some of the readers, if they delve into a bit of that with your sister Melanie Flynn at the age of 24, there was that book Bluegrass Conspiracy, wasn't there?
have. Mhm.
And telling more about that. So I don't know that we need to go into that anymore, but I just
Well, there's
wanted
a
our
lot of
listeners
it
to
that,
know it's been a very high profile. You mentioned that she did disappear in January of 1977. It's been was and really does continue to this day to be a high profile, not closed type of case.
well, Randy, as a Lexington native, the disappointment for me is
Uh-huh.
someone who's always kind of been an ambassador for Kentucky
Yes,
and
sir.
Lexington, lived here all my life. They talk about all these celebrities we have, Kentuckians, and they give them all these accolades, but none of them come back here to live.
There you go.
They don't pay their taxes here. I've done that
Mhm.
for 74 years, and I'm glad to do it, but it's shameful to know that there's also a part of this city that was very corrupt and has still hiding the fact that, because I think there's people around here right now that know exactly what happened.
Yes. Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
but they've covered it up for all of these years, and that's
Yeah. Yes,
still
yes.
disappointing. It still hurts, and as a Christian, trying to forgive that sometimes is pretty tough. Uh,
Yes.
but there's
Yes.
really we don't have as a Christian, you don't have a choice. You have to
That's
forgive.
right.
So
That's right.
I'm
We
still
appreciate
working
that.
on all of those a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah,
harder
I
each day.
understand. I understand.
But yeah, it did interfere with my baseball.
Yeah, because now in June of that same year, you're finding yourself trying to acclimate to, the New York City lifestyle.
And you got writers coming in now that some have found out about what's going on, and
I
they
see.
wanna start asking you about, "So what do you think happened? What is this?" And instead of just dealing with baseball, and I didn't handle that very good, 'cause, in
Uh-huh.
Cincinnati, you'd have 5 guys in the locker room. In New York, you got 75, and
Wow.
they're coming from all over the place, from all the
Absolutely.
boroughs and different
Yeah.
places and trying little papers, and so they're trying to get stories and they're trying to get something different. And there were times where I got a little jaded, and some of my comments
Understandable.
not real good. I mean, they'd be short, and that's the way some of those people remembered me. And
Uh-huh.
and I don't blame them for saying some of the stuff they did because I just didn't handle a lot of that very good.
I understand. Yeah.
But the
So,
baseball part, after finally
uh-huh.
getting out on the field, became a very good comfort zone. It wasn't living in that area, but it was getting out on the field and knowing when you went to the ballpark. And I had Joe Torre as a manager who was wonderful, and getting a chance to play every day and meeting some new teammates, and they all were really good. When I first got there, they were dismantling the '69 Met team.
Uh-huh.
And there was
Yeah.
also the Met team of '73 that went to the World Series, and they still had a lot of those guys were still around, Jerry Grody and Jerry Kuzma and John Matlack, Felix Millan, Buddy Harrelson. A lot of those guys were still around, and they treated me extremely well. They knew
Uh-huh.
I didn't make the trade. A lot of
Uh-huh.
people acted like I was the general manager and I traded over there for Tom Seaver. Well, obviously that's not the case. So, they treated me good, and the fans, for the most part, treated me very well because I played hard, didn't play well all the time, but I played hard and kept my mouth shut. If I made a mistake, I'd own up to
Uh,
it.
Right.
And I had
Well,
an accent that they weren't used to hearing before too.
that's right, for sure. Well, a few memories here and there, I wonder. Knocked a home run off of Gaylord Perry. Tell me about the myth or the truth of the spitball. What'd you think about that, big
He
guy?
Well, I didn't see it up to then. I saw it after that,
Did
but
you?
I know as I was going around the bases, he was hollering at me, "My career must be over if you're hitting a home run off of me." He was he was a big, he was 6'5" or so,
Yeah.
and just a big farmer guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a competitor, man. He played
Oh,
hard.
man.
He was good, but yeah, I somehow hit a 3-run homer off of him in a game, and and he screamed at me the whole way around the
He
base.
must have been a master at what he did and how he hit it and
He was
everything.
good. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, obviously.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. Well,
but
you
he came
talked
up,
about,
and he didn't throw the spitball as much as everybody thought he did. He only threw
okay.
it when he really needed it.
Yeah. I got you.
But, if you watched him, he was touching everything.
Oh, yeah.
So you never knew where he was getting it
Yeah.
from or
Yeah. Well, you talked about, Don Gullett being able to run the bases. Is it the fact that you hit a, inside the park homer once upon a time? You must have run them okay.
that's really what it was against Cincinnati.
Is that right?
Yeah, when I think it was the same year as 77 or 78, and, you're still trying to find your place up there. I still wanna be accepted as a part and, you spent 3 years in the minor leagues, 2.5 years in the big leagues with the Reds. I really wasn't a New York Met,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and I felt like 'cause every day somebody was getting on about the trade, traded the greatest pitcher for this bunch of ragtag guys that came over here, called it the Midnight Massacre in the paper.
Wow.
And so we're playing, and Cincinnati comes into New York, and they score 5 runs in the top of the 4th or 5th inning. We go into the bottom of the inning. I hit a 3-run inside the park home run, and then my second time up that inning, I got another base hit. And so I had 2 hits in the inning, and that was we scored 10 in the bottom of the inning.
Wow.
That's the first time that I really remember the fans saying, "All right, we're stuck with it." We
There we
wound
go.
for him a little bit, so
There we go.
yeah.
Well, I want to say a little something about the Gold Glove, but just one more little quickie, uh, and maybe that comes from a little bit of foot speed too. But 3 triples in one game, I'm not sure that might still tie
He's
an
tied a
all-time.
record.
That
Y
thought so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's about 30 something guys that have done it. When
Okay.
I did it, I think I was the 19th
Okay.
or so,
Yeah.
and it hadn't been done in several years when I did it. I
Right.
did it in Montreal, and,
Okay.
yeah, and I came up the 4th time, and, Gary Carter was catching, and he says,
Huh.
"Nobody's ever hit 4 in a game."
Wow.
And I went, "Yeah," and I said, "Well, give me something good." He said,
There
"Here,
we go.
right here." And I hit it right on the button.
Yeah.
Perfect 1 hopper to short for a double play. So, but yeah, I hit that, and I think it tied. It's still, and it's no Met had ever done it.
Uh-huh.
And last year, I think Jose Lindor started off, hit 2 triples his first 2 times up. So
Wow.
all my friends in New York were
Uh-huh.
calling me going, "You're in trouble.
Yeah,
Lindor's got
yeah,
2." And
yeah.
he didn't hit another one. So, yeah.
Well, how does a guy find out that he did win the Gold Glove? Tell us about that when that word comes
Well,
out.
I thought in 78 and 79, I probably had a good shot at it because my numbers were really good.
Uh-huh.
79, I thought was my best defensive year. Led the league in double plays, putouts, total chances, assists, and I think I tied for fielding percentage, which can be a little misleading sometimes. But in 1980, I get a call from Jack Lang. Jack was a writer up in there, and he said, "Well, you finally got one." And I went, "Finally?"
Huh.
I mean, I thought that was kind of strange words because I'd only been an
Uh-huh.
everyday player for 3 years.
Right.
And he said, "Yeah," he said, "You were runner up the last 2 years."
Wow.
And,
Wow.
so I won it in '80, and then I was runner up again after that 1 year. So 3 out of 4 years or 4 out of 4
Yeah.
years, I was in the hunt, and I won it 1
Yeah.
time. And so,
Absolutely.
I wasn't a starter that many years, so, I took a lot of pride in it, and defense came a lot
Absolutely.
more natural to me than the hitting
Uh-huh.
did. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was fun, and I had a groundskeeper in New York, his name was Pete Flynn, no
Well,
Kent,
uh-huh.
real strong Irish accent. So, I didn't like the field to be dusty because I knew if I'm gonna make any money, I gotta make it with my glove, it ain't gonna be with my bat. So, I always liked mine watered down just a little bit extra out there. So, I went to Pete one day and I said, this is before I won the Gold Glove. I said, "Pete, can you do me a favor?" And he says,
Yeah.
"What's that, kid?" I said, "Can you put a little extra water out there on second base for me?" And he went, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, is that wrong?" He said, "If you had good hands, you wouldn't have to worry about it." So when I won the Gold Glove, I bought all the groundskeepers' watches, and on the back, it's got
Well,
Doug Flynn's Gold Glove ground crew.
wow.
And I went back 25 years later, and one of the guys there still had it on his wrist.
Wow,
And I
isn't
went,
that
"If I'd have
super?
known those were that good of watches, I don't know if I'd have got them for you."
That's amazing. Well, Sparky Anderson, Joe Torre, a couple of Hall of Famers. Tell us just maybe a managerial story, if you will, or a little something about teammates, something about those major league years. And I want to get on with some other the next chapter of Doug Flynn's life, which has been just as amazing, and especially for me as a Kentuckian, and looking up to you as an ambassador for the state of Kentucky. But before we break away from an 11-year major league career, Doug, I wanted to look this up, and I admit I didn't. What is the average year span of an average major leaguer?
I think it's just a
what,
little shy of 4 years.
there you go. Okay, I was really curious about that.
It
I
used
mean,
to be NFL and MLB were pretty close to the same,
yeah,
but it was just a little shy of 4 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and so
amazing.
yeah, it really is,
Yeah.
when I look back, Randy, the fact that, I didn't make any all-city teams, I didn't have any scholarship offers coming out of school, high school, and then get a chance to go play at the University, Kentucky for a year, and then some friends wake me up to go to a tryout camp,
Oh man.
if you think God didn't have a hand in my life, man, there's something wrong
Uh,
with you, so
big time, big
it was
time.
pretty cool, and then get to play for
Oh yeah.
Sparky was great. Sparky was good. Sparky really liked the veteran player more than he liked the young kids. So he didn't have a lot of conversation with us. I remember one game I went into play, and Davey and I turned 4 double plays in the game.
Wow.
The game was over with, and somebody went up and said, "Sparky, a kid at second got some pretty good
Yeah.
hands." And went, "Well, that's why we got him."
Yeah. Yeah. Not a big pat on the back. Just
No,
matter of
that's what you're
fact,
supposed to do. If you're
that's
not
why
gonna do it,
that's
you
his
won't we
job.
have to be here.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
in those days, I had guys like Daryl Chaney and Bill Plummer,
Yeah.
and they were just so good to me. They
Uh-huh.
just they taught me that, "All right, look, we're not gonna play much here. Here's how you get yourself ready to play when
Mm-hmm.
they're called upon."
Mm-hmm.
And then to
Yeah.
play for, Sparky, who's in the Hall of Fame. Joe Torre was a great manager. Joe gave me a chance to play every day, and, he just told me, he says, "You're my second baseman. Now go get him."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and he was so encouraging, and,
Right.
Joe wanted to do a lot of moves on our teams in New York, but they just weren't gonna let him. So they gave him a bunch of us guys who had been backup players for a lot of time, and says, "All right, this is what you got. Now do the best you can with them." And he
Mm-hmm.
showed that when he got a little talent, what he could do when he went over to New York
Yes.
and won all those
Yes.
World Series.
Yes.
Because he was a great guy to play for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were any of the managers kind of a bit motivational? It sounds like, I mean, I'm talking about Major League Baseball, and Sparky's like, hey, this is your job, go out and do it. Maybe Joe Torre, did you want to play for him a little bit more? Was he a little bit more of a motivational guy, or is there much of that goes on, not in the locker room?
I
Not
think
so much, maybe.
well, you look, Joe was an MVP. Joe was a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
player.
absolutely,
He
absolutely.
hit, and he was a good player with the Cardinals, and so I think I knew who he was just because I had watched him play, and,
Uh-huh.
I kept up with it a little bit. We knew Sparky was just kind of an average so-so player, but, Sparky had some great gifts when it came to managing. He had that clock to know when to take a guy out, uh, and he worked real close with Johnny on that, obviously, but he had a good sense on how to use that pitching staff. Joe was just, he played, he knew the game, and he was really good to us, and he always had our back. If there's
Mm-hmm.
any kind of
Mm-hmm.
arguments or stuff, he'd be out there to take care of us, and yeah, Joe was just a good person, and I
Yeah, yeah,
respected him so much.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
super. Well, before I want to get into a little bit of traveling softball, Champions Against Drugs, just a lot of your charitable kinds of activities. But first, I want to let you know something that you already know for a fact. You married up, big guy. You
No
married
kidding.
up. Let's just call it what it is.
We got pictures? Show those pictures, I agree.
So tell us, how did y'all meet? How'd that come about, you and Olga?
So, we're going into Philadelphia to play. I'm playing with the Mets, Pete Rose is with the Phillies. We
Okay.
were going to dinner after a game, and I say to, Pete, "Why don't you tell his girlfriend, who later became his second wife, to bring
Uh-huh.
a friend? Because when we go to dinner, Pete and I talk baseball, and Carol would just sort of sit there, and we were very rude, actually. We wouldn't talk to her much.
Uh-huh.
And so she'd sit there, so I said, Carol to bring a friend with her. So that night I get on first, and Pete says, I got some good news and bad news. I said, what's the bad news? He said, this girl come tonight's engaged.
Oh my
And I went,
gosh.
okay, I'm not looking for a date. I just thought Carol wants somebody to talk to. So I had to hit and run. I said, Pete, I got to leave on this pitch. What's the good news? And as I'm going towards second, he said, she looks good. And she did, and still
Oh my
does.
gosh.
43 years later, we're still together. So yeah, she was an Eagles cheerleader.
Oh
The
wow.
year they went to the Super Bowl, got beat by Oakland, and she's Puerto Rican. Love her family. It was
Yeah.
just
Wow.
yeah. It's
Well, thank
that
you, Pete
very enough
Rose.
is an understatement.
That's super. Well, the competitive juice is still flowed. You're back in Kentucky, but tell us a little bit about that traveling softball, because I think it was a pretty big national deal, and the kind of teammates you had, the team we put together, and all.
Yeah, I played a little softball before I started playing professional baseball, and I was 19, playing on with a bunch of guys, older, most of them, but we were pretty decent. And so when I signed to play professional, Tommy Brooks, who was running some softball, who I'd played with a bunch, said, all right, sign on this Matchbox. When you get through playing baseball, you're going to come back and play softball with me. And I went, sure.
Yeah.
So when I get released, I come home in 86, and I hadn't been home 2 days, and the phone rang. It was Tommy Brooks. Says, all right, we got tryouts on Sunday. I went, wait a minute. I got 11 years in the big leagues, and I got a
Yeah.
tryout for a slow pitch softball team. He said, the game has changed a little bit, and
Wow.
we're pretty good now. They were ranked 5th nationally, I think, at the time. And so I went out there and watched them play a scrimmage game, and, worked out with them a little bit. And so I think we won our first few tournaments. I didn't even play. And then I finally got into the game, and that was 1986. Then in 1987, we went to the Nationals and won the ASA Major National Championship.
Wow.
And in 1988, they started a division called the Super Division with unlimited home runs, and it was like the big boys of softball. And then we won the ASA Super that year in Oklahoma. So, yeah, I was playing with some the game had changed because athletes started playing. Slow pitch was no longer a ladies' game, as they used to say. Fast pitch was dying out. Slow pitch was getting popular. Guys were getting big. They had all played ball in college. There were some athletes playing. And, I played at 180 pounds. I was the smallest guy on most teams. Played with guys like Rodney Woods.
Wow.
Rodney was a tremendous softball player, a tremendous defensive player. He played third. I played short. And then we got a guy named Greg Whitlock from Louisville, played short, who was really good, moved me to second. And one game, we turned 6 double plays in one game.
Gosh.
These guys, they were athletes, and they could play the game. Then we put some speed and some power and up. And next thing you know, we were out there battling the big boys, and all of us, or most of us, were from Kentucky.
Right.
And we were playing every weekend somewhere. And I tell you, some of the most fun I've ever had in my life. So I played 8 years of pro softball. It's called pro softball. So I played 8 years of that, and at 43, I quit. I was already 36 when I started playing with these guys.
Yeah.
And then at 43, it got to the point where I wasn't playing to as well as I wanted to play, and it was getting dangerous because playing against these 20-year-olds that are weigh 270 and they're using a 26-ounce bat. Whew. And if they miss it, it's coming right at you, and
Lordy
you got
mercy.
time to get out of the way.
Yeah, I can imagine a ground ball. I mean, just
Oh, it was fun. It was fun, man. It was so fun. Yeah. We played at the Smoky Mountain Classic, and they'd have 30,000 people there. It's just, big crowds. And in a lot of places we went, big crowds. Of course, when they found out, there wasn't but 2 or 3 of us that had played some pro baseball. But when they found out you played pro baseball, then I felt like I was back in New York again.
Yeah, and you got the autograph seekers, and that's pretty cool.
Or just getting on me about stuff,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Say you're fair game now.
Yeah.
You play pro ball.
And I'm one of the smallest guys out there playing too. So,
well, Doug,
it was fun.
A ton for our state and beyond, as we talk about a lot of the charitable events. But one of the first things that I really remember was the when with you coming back to Kentucky, and of course we followed your career, as you know, because of your father, Bobby Flynn, being a dear friend of my family's.
Mhm.
But was the Champions Against Drugs program.
Mhm.
Uh, Give us the the genesis of that and kind of your commitment to that program, how that was all about.
Well, it was started by Martha Lane Collins, and, as we're taping this, she just passed away a couple of days ago.
Yes, indeed.
A dear lady, started the program. She got a lot of good things done for the state, and
Oh, amazing governor. Yes.
yeah, well, my best friend, Greg Austin, and his dad and Martha Lane's husband, Bill, were first cousins.
Oh,
So, we used to when I'd come home in off season, I'd sing with the Greg Austin band, and there'd be some nights we'd get through singing, the lights would go up, and there'd be Governor Collins in the back of the room, and her and her bodyguards were sitting back there, and she'd come in, just listen to us sing. They'd been on the
wow.
road somewhere. And so they started the program Champions Against Drugs to try to go around to kids and at least talk to them about, the harmful effects that that drugs, alcohol, and stuff can do. And so I thought, huh. She said, "Would you be interested in being on the committee?" I went, "Sure." So I started going around speaking, and I was doing 2 or 3 schools, assemblies, so,
Uh-huh.
big assemblies a week, and, till because I didn't have a job, and I was trying to see what I wanted to do, and then we're watching TV one night, and it's a derby party, and it says, "And Governor Collins' Champions Against Drugs Committee," and all these athletes that were there, and I went my wife's watching, she said, "Aren't you on that?" And I went, "Thought I was." "Well, how come you didn't get invited to a derby party?" I said, "I'll find out." So I called Rusty Chevron, and Rusty was her not chief of staff, but he was something, a liaison or something. So I called Rusty. I said, "Rusty, how come we didn't get invited to that party at the Derby?" I said, "I'd love to go to a Derby party." I said, "Well, I wouldn't really like to, but my wife would have liked to go." And he
Mhm.
said, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, since y'all didn't think enough to invite us to that party, then don't ask me to go speak anymore because I'm through." About 30 minutes goes by and the phone rings. Rusty says, "Doug, Martha Lane wants you in her office tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock." And I said, "I don't work for Martha Lane." I said, "I don't get up at 8 o'clock. I just got out of baseball, and that spring, I was trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So, but because I knew her, I said, "All right." So I get down there and 8 o'clock, she's not there. 8:15, she's not there. 8:30, she's not there. I got up, I said, "I'm out of here." Just as I was getting ready to walk out the door, she opens up the door and she slams the door and she said,
Hmm.
"Did you come down here to give me a bunch of crap?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I did. And if you don't want to hear it, you better let me walk right out this door." And an hour and a half later, I walked out as executive director of the program.
Wow.
And I did it for 9 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And, we would go around, and it was a prevention program and
Mhm.
basically talking to a lot of kids. And, they said, "Doug, you need to go get educated on or you need to go get a degree in this if you're gonna do it." And I went, "No. Why don't y'all teach me what I need to know? Because if I just go in there as Doug Flynn, the ball player, who has a concern for young people, that's gonna go a lot further than Doug got his degree from so and so to come in
Yeah.
here and d
Yeah.
that's gonna
Yeah.
turn a lot of them off.
Mhm.
So, if there's things I don't need to know or do need to know, let me know, so when I walk into this classroom, I can feel comfortable telling kids what I know, what I think, but also what's legal, and there's a lot of legal stuff you gotta be careful of.
Mhm.
So if somebody comes up to me and expresses that they're having certain abuses or things going on around their house, and I tell them before, "If you tell me, I gotta report it."
Gotcha.
And that's
Uh-huh.
why a lot of those kids, because I found out at that time when you would report some that it was not handled very well. I'll put
I
it that way.
see.
I think they're
Mhm.
doing a better job of it now.
You're right.
At least,
Right.
you would hope they are.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, 9 years I got to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Doug, I don't know if that was kind of a spark for your charitable heart. Of course, I'm sure you saw that modeled from your mother and father, but
Mhm.
uh, I'm going to ask you to share this. I know you're a humble guy, but tell us about some of your charitable work, some of the golf the charitable programs. You, Johnny
Mhm.
Bench. It's I don't even know if you've got a calculator that can add up to how much money you all have raised for so many good causes over the years. But let us know about that if you would.
Well,
I
you
sure
can
would
see
appreciate
behind me,
it.
that's, those 2 things, I really like doing stuff for military charities now,
Gotcha.
but we did a golf tournament here called the Children's Charity Classic, I
Yes.
got in on it after it had already been going for 10 years, and then I did it for the last 30 something. It was 41 years total. Raised somewhere in the vicinity of $17 million, I think, for kids. We'd have
Yeah.
30 different children's charities, and, if you do golf tournaments, you got a lot of expenses that come with them, but we found a way where we could give a significant amount back. And then, um, it just I felt like that, because of the platform I was given, and the Bible says, "To much has been given, to much you gotta give back," and I didn't do that for a long time because you're still when you're so busy, you can get so caught up in the baseball world of trying to make it and, not knowing from day to next. Like, I signed one multi-year contract. Everything else was a single year, no agent until
Uh-huh.
after I won a Gold Glove, then I got an agent. And, but I always wanted to come back to Kentucky and stay here and make a difference if possible, and so the golf tournament was great, and we did that for years, and there was so many wonderful people I was working around that started it, that are still around town. Excuse me, and then they started a little celebrity players golf tour, and Michael Jordan and, Dan Marino and John Elway and Johnny Bench, and a lot of these guys were on it, so they came to Lexington to play, and they needed a player, so I got to play in it. Excuse me. And we would go down to, I think that's empty. We would go down to, Camp Lejeune, and we would play money, but they would pay us to come down there. And Johnny and I got talking after one day, and I went, "Why are we getting paid to do
Hmm.
this?
Hmm.
Shouldn't we be raising we're down here to raise money for these men and women and their families." So, for the last 21 years, we've been involved with something called Hope for the Warriors. 92 cents on the dollar goes to the veteran and his family. And
Super.
you don't see a lot of that in any kind of charitable
No,
organizations
sir.
anymore. And so and the pictures behind me, that's Bob Dickerson, who is right there. He was the base commander at Camp Lejeune for a long time. This was a guy I met in this little outfit there. That's, is Shenandoah Sanchez, and that's, from Iraq, and he sent me the flag, and, we go down, and basically, I stay in touch with about 6 guys now. I try to call them once every 2 weeks. Just I got challenged by a guy and named Kevin Bittenbender. Kevin lost all of it. He doesn't have any toes left.
Mm.
Lost part of his leg because he got burned, the burn stuff. Most optimistic guy I've ever seen in my life. He
Mm.
does marathons, and
Wow.
he challenged us one day. He said, "Whether you're in the service or not, call your friends and make it a point just to call them and say, just checking in, how you doing?" And so, trying to do that, and
That's super.
but when you go, and see all of the stuff that is being done, and it gave me an opportunity to be a pro ball player because men and women were willing to sacrifice some their lives, some their limbs, so that I'd have a chance to, do what I'm doing. Shoot, the least you can do is give back. And I got all my buddies. There's some people around Central Kentucky. They don't even go down to the tournament, but when I call on them, they'll say, "Here's your check for 1,000. Here's your
Wow.
check for take
Wow.
this with you when you go down there."
That's
And
super.
it's really been so I got a lot of stuff in my office in here. You can't see it all right now, but
Uh-huh.
it's either baseball related or military charity related. Like I got a couple of pictures from there's one right over there. It's on the floor. I'm just looking at it. That was given from down in St. Croix, a children's home, and that was made by the kids. And there's so many people doing it. The unfortunate thing about it, Randy, is you don't hear about that.
Uh-huh.
I had a reporter ask me, said, "Why don't we have any heroes anymore?" I said, "Oh,
Mm.
there's heroes out there. You all just choose not to report about them. You'd
There you
rather
go.
report about all the junk and stuff that's going on."
Mhm.
There's a lot of good
Mhm.
guys doing a lot of
Mhm.
good work, and I've been blessed to do this with Johnny now for 21 years, and
Yeah.
we don't only do Camp Lejeune, but we go to Indiana, go to
Wow.
Atlanta. Johnny just did his own tournament down in Florida. We go to military bases and pass out food, like at Fort Campbell, which is coming up here pretty soon. So, yeah,
That's
I'm
fabulous.
encouraging everyone, if you're not involved with something, get involved with it.
There you go.
You'd be surprised if you think, "Well, I'm not doing much," but how much that little bit, in your opinion,
Mhm.
goes a long way with
Mhm.
others.
Right. I think another organization that's near and dear to your heart and speaks to really your faith, Doug, Fellowship of Christian Athletes,
Yeah.
and a statement about your faith.
Yeah, that's, in our chapter, my high school football coach got me to FCA, uh, And here's the way he did it. His name was Dan Haley, and he walked into our team meeting. He said, "All right, boys, there's a Fellowship of Christian Athletes meeting. It's going to be on Wednesday, and it's going to run from 7 to 8. You don't have to come, but I'll be there." Okay, well, I will too
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
If coach is going, I'm going.
There you go.
And from that, then my wife and I got involved with something called Pro Athletes Outreach, and we were on the board of that for 18 years, I think, and it was just a ministry, and thankful to that ministry because it probably saved my marriage. Because I got
Mm.
married at age 30, my wife was 24. I was pretty independent, and we realized right off the get, if we don't base our marriage upon biblical
Mhm.
facts, we're in trouble. And it's not just your marriage, but it's your life, and so,
Yes, indeed.
still got a lot of mistakes in there that I make, but thank goodness that my sins have been forgiven, and I know without a doubt I'm going to heaven, so, and that's what I try to encourage other people now, but,
Mhm.
read through if you've never done it, read through the Bible in a year. If you
Mhm.
like reading, read through the Bible in a year. You'll sit there and
Mhm.
go, "Really?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so I just yeah, that's the most important thing, and
Indeed.
it certainly sustained me through a lot of tough, and it's, helping me be a forgiving person when,
Mhm.
I know there's times I'm not forgivable, so
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Well, one way that you've really stayed close to the game uh, is that you've done a good bit of broadcasting, both radio and television broadcasting for the Cincinnati Reds, University of Kentucky baseball, among
Mhm.
others that I'm aware of. That probably fuels you a little bit. I mean, fuels your fire to,
It's these velvet
be a
tones that are
part.
coming out of here, Randy, that's what it is. I watch you at the state tournament and say,
uh,
"Okay, this is how you be professional."
I love it.
I love the game, and Kentucky's allowed me to be around it, and, eh, the tendency is sometimes is as they got you on there because you're a former player, and they hope you know a little bit about the game, and that you like to hear a few stories. For some of us in broadcasting, when you get up there at the game, the higher up you sit, the easier the game looks,
Uh-huh.
uh, and so and the smarter you seem to get somehow. I don't know how
Right.
that works. But you try not to say, "Well, back when I played," although there's a lot of that can be related because the game is really different, and all the rules that they have now and some of the things they're doing are so different than when I came up, so but I love it, I've been blessed to work with, Dick Gabriel, who's been
Uh-huh.
a longtime friend. We've known each other we don't even know how many years we've been doing Kentucky games, and then I guess getting a chance to go out to the, World Series a couple of years ago was really, really fun, and there's some good baseball. When you're watching Southeastern Conference
Yeah,
baseball, you're seeing
for
some good
sure.
players come through there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I did it with Marty. When Marty
Yeah.
retired, I knew I wouldn't be doing anymore. Uh, but doing broadcasting with Marty Brennaman, I mean, does it get any better than that? I mean, here's a Hall of
That's
Famer.
for
He's so
sure.
good, and Marty and I have become really good friends over the last several years,
Mhm.
doing a lot of stuff together, and, but when I got a chance to do it matter of fact, when I first did my first game with him, I was up all night, I was studying, I had a stack of papers about like that. Go in and sit down, Marty says, "Oh, done your homework?" I went, "Yeah." He picks it up, throws it in the trash.
Huh.
I went, "Okay."
Okay.
And I looked over at him, and he looked, and he said, "Look, there's only one of us in this booth that's been on that field." And he says, "I'll put you in a position so you can tell people what it's like."
There we go. Wow. Yeah.
But then he came up to me, he says, "But I was glad to see that you did do some work because a lot of guys that go up there, they don't even have a
Right.
scorebook.
Right.
And I keep a
Yeah.
scorebook for Kentucky games, for
Uh-huh.
Reds
Yeah.
games, all
Yeah.
of them. Because when I write it down, I mean, it really helps me now in my
Right. For
recall when I
sure.
wanna go back.
Yeah.
I can remember pretty much the pitch and the situation and
For
everything.
sure.
And my wife
You know,
says, "How do you do that? You can't
yeah.
remember what TV
Yeah.
show we saw last night." And I went, "What's your point?"
That's all right. Well, you mentioned your friendship with Marty Brennaman, and I want you to speak just a bit to, I guess, as I reflect back on the Cincinnati Big Red Machine, to me, uh, the two standouts that are in my mind are Johnny Bench and Pete Rose. And if you would expand just a little bit on your friendship relationship over the years with
Mhm.
Johnny and Pete.
Yeah, Pete was good to all of us as young kids. I mean, if you went to his house, he'd give you something, and he was just always like that. And he also made you better because he made you feel like you could. It didn't matter who was pitching, you could hit him. He ain't got nothing. Nolan
No.
Ryan, he ain't got nothing. And And so he just made you feel like you were invincible almost. And then you almost felt like, because I'm with Pete, I better be, or I'm gonna have to step up the
Mhm.
game. That's just kind of the way, but we became good friends. And, if before he passed away, he'd be in Vegas signing autographs a lot, and people would go up and say, "Hey, we got a mutual friend, Doug Flynn, Doug and
Wow.
Olga Flynn." And the
Wow.
first thing he'd say is, "I introduced him."
Wow.
And I
That's
thought that was
cool.
pretty cool because
Yeah.
now we've been married 43 years, and, uh, and the fact that he would just, he was just always gracious, always to me and my family. He treated
Uh-huh.
us like part of his family. And
Yes.
what he did for me in '77, of course, I would never forget, having that room and us
Absolutely.
and a place to stay and all that. And then Johnny and I, over the years, have become really good friends because, that people don't realize when you are superstars at that level, what they go through, and I'll say that, for but lack of a better word, the stupid questions that get asked these people at
Mhm.
inopportune
Mhm.
times sometimes. And then they may react in a different way, so you automatically say, "Well, he's not a good person that way. Gee, he was rude to
Mhm.
me." Well,
Mhm.
it's when I sit there, I think, "Well, I probably would have acted the same way with the way you presented your question."
Mhm.
And but I get to know them when they're outside of that. They're away from all the fanfare, and they're with their kids or their grandkids, and then Johnny and I now, since we hooked up with this military charity, a matter of fact, very few times have I ever called Johnny in and said, "I think this is a good idea. We ought to check it out." Has he said no? I mean, he's found a way to
Right.
come to visit, to show up, to do stuff, send things, whatever. And so I love them both. I mean, they've both been
Alright.
good to me. I love them. Johnny and I are becoming dear friends, and I'll see him in another. He's got a birthday coming up pretty soon. He'll be
Wow.
78 years old on
Wow.
December the 7th. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I believe he's the greatest of all time in my books.
There's no doubt in my mind, Randy.
Oh,
He
yeah.
just was so good. He did
Yeah.
things, his hands were so good, his feet were so good, he had quick feet, and, he just did things behind the plate that other guys
Yes,
just
indeed.
couldn't touch. And,
Yeah. Well, there are so many folks, in Central Kentucky, Doug, who remember your father, Bobby, so fondly. He was just a tremendous ambassador for the state of Kentucky, and really, Doug, I view you as the ultimate ambassador for the state of
mhm.
Kentucky. As you look at where we are today, is there anything else on your heart? A little bit about what you hope to accomplish, even moving forward, kind of some continuation, or you're just never still. You're always on the move. You're
Mhm,
at Central Bank right now, where you've been employed
mhm.
for a number of years. What are we seeing here in the next little bit, Doug?
I don't know, I've kinda got that Satchel Paige attitude, don't look behind you, somebody might be gaining on you, so,
Yes, sir.
I'm just, I love being active, I love to fish, uh got a little bad back now, so I can't really play golf like I'd like to, but I'd
Uh
love to
huh.
fish. It's so relaxing for me, and fish tournaments and stuff. I'm enjoying that with a good buddy and my brother. I don't know, maybe a year or so. I'll be 75 in April, so
Right.
might be time to shut her down. My wife wants to do a little traveling, but
Sure.
I've been blessed to have a job here at Central Bank for 28 years now, and they've been awful good to me.
Yes,
Luther
indeed.
Deaton has just been fabulous, and I'm hoping, if maybe one more year and then
Hmm.
start looking for some others. There's some stuff out there. I've been
Yes.
talking to some people, or let me put it this way, some people have been talking to me about some stuff.
Uh huh.
I'm locked in where I am right now, but there could be a time where we'll start investigating. My wife really,
Sure.
she wants to get out. She's a travel agent, so she wants to travel. I love being around Lexington, and so, yeah, I don't know. I'm just, and
Well,
I tell you what I'm really enjoying those is when I get opportunities to go share my faith, I'm not turning those down.
indeed.
I'm really
There we
enjoying that.
go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everything you've done has been for the good of
Mhm.
the community you're in at that time, Doug, and we
We've been
appreciate
blessed,
you.
Randy, with our
Yes, sir.
families.
Oh my
We have been
goodness.
blessed,
Yes, we have.
as you said,
Well,
our folks go
yes,
way back, and,
yes.
with your dad and my dad, and some of the
Oh my
most
goodness.
fun
Yes.
times for me was when I got out of baseball in '86, was going down to the state tournaments, and
You better believe it.
but even before that, I was going, when I was playing ball.
Yes.
Shoot, even if
Yeah.
I was away at spring training, I'd be calling home like, "Who's in the state tournament? Who won?"
What?
And
That's
then
super.
so it was always
Yeah.
good, yeah. So
Yeah.
we were very
Yeah.
blessed in that regard.
Well, I totally agree, Doug. Thank you so very much. Just appreciate this time together, all you've done, and looking forward, of course, to our continued friendship.
Let's
Thanks a
do it
bunch.
some more, pal.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks for joining us today on Sports History Now. We're going to keep it rolling. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thanks, Randy.
Enjoyed it. Yes, sir.
Before we close, I want to thank another of our loyal Sports History Now supporters, Jason Greer. Supporters like Jason allow us to produce these treasured stories behind the story, preserving sports history for generations to come. A big Sports History Now thank you goes out to Jason Greer.